Making your way through work Monday takes everything you got. Then Monday night rolls around and you realize there's a shot. You're only 10 points away. All those times when your team had no fight, they're just so gosh darn frail. Then your star quarterback let another deep ball sail, and your third round pick bet on his team. Then go check out our strengths where everybody knows your pain, and they listen to complaints. You wanna be where you can see our bodies bring you no shame. You wanna go where everybody knows your pain.
Welcome back to Dad Bod Fantasy Squad. Tonight, I got with me Robbie Bobby, Rob Norton. Tonight, I'll be kind of calling him Norton to kind of keep it a little bit easier. You know, we'll keep Robbie as Robbie. We'll go to Rob Norton as Norton. What is up, Rob Norton? Now I'm saying Rob Norton. Look at me. What's up, Norton?
Already.
Not much. How you guys doing?
Robbie, how you doing?
Doing good, man. I'm excited. Some great games week one. Lots to talk about, lots to get into. But, man, it was a good week to start.
It was. I mean, I am every Tuesday that comes. There's two things that I do. One is thirst for Wednesday. And I know that sounds boring, but I love waiver day. And like majority of my leagues do waivers on Wednesday. I have a few that do Thursday. I even set my alarm sometimes at 5. Dude, when it's getting down to the nitty gritty, you check on ESPN. It says 3 a.m., but it really means 5. You check at 5, you get the free ones, be done, be out.
What an
Am I the only
animal.
one that does that? You guys don't do any of that?
I do. I used to. I will say that I used to do that. And well, part of it was when I was a little younger, I used to stay up until like the 3 o'clock time. And Yahoo's pretty quick about it. And so like a lot of my leagues at the time were on Yahoo. So I would be up at 3:30, making sure I'm getting them all before everybody else, saving the waiver priority, trying to outsmart them.
Saving money. I think this, I also don't know if I can't think of it right now. I can't remember if ESPN allows $0 bidding. I think they do. And I think it's there.
I think so. Sleeper does, right?
Yeah. $0 bidding is nice. The waiver claim, if you want to save your waiver claim, if it's one of the, what's that rule called where you kind of get pushed to the front of the line if you hold it and you hold it? Can't remember what.
Yeah, I don't remember what it's.
It's Fab. Fab needs to be in all leagues.
100%.
I agree. I agree. I've been pushing for it for all my leagues.
Me too, and no one wants to hear it in my home leagues, which sucks. So.
You know, I have more success of getting Fab in a league. Well, this makes sense. I have success getting Fab in the league. I am like 0 for 0 on, or 0 for 100 on auction, trying to get auctions going. That's a huge no, but Fab people will buy in on.
I got into with the Scott Fish this year. I was on a big 3rd round reversal kick, like right after that. I thought it was awesome. And it just, I mean, for me, it like levels out the playing field. Like, I think it's a huge, like, I think it's a big advantage in redrafts. Like, I think it's a big advantage. First, you get first pick in the 3rd. Like, I think that's a big advantage. But I push for that in every league, and everyone's like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, we're not doing this.
I feel like it's so hard. I don't know about you guys, but it's so hard to like, especially like the home leagues, because they're not as like, I mean, it's not that they're like not as into it as us, but they're like not as like hardcore, like not as progressive with it. And like, it took me years to get the auction pushed into my main home league. And like, finally, I think like 3-4 years ago, maybe 4 years ago now, I got them all on board. Now everybody loves it. So
you do it live or online?
Yeah, we generally do it live, and we do it an interesting way too. So we do it like we all are at the table, and only one person can bid at a time. So like whoever's on, like if you throw up, say I threw up Jefferson for $40, only the person to the left of me can bid, and they can bid whatever they want as long as it's above 40. But as soon as you pass, you're out for good, and it goes around. It just continues to go around the table basically until
that's
everyone.
cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of like an organized. It
How
takes a little
long's
bit longer.
I was gonna say, how long does that take?
Yeah, like sometimes it'll take like 6-7 hours.
Yeah.
But for me, I love
fun, man.
auction drafts, and I love
too.
drafts in general, and like it's one of my favorite days of the year. So I don't care; it could take all day. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I am too. I have my main home league is a bunch of dudes that we've been doing this for over 15 years. I would say 06, so a little over 15 years. And it's just great to when we get together, we do it live. I would say about 4 or 5 gets antsy when things get too long. Like they just want to drink, they want to play cornhole, like whatever the other options are at where we're at. But me, I'm like, I could do this all day. Like we golfed this morning. I'm good. I play the auctioneer in our league, and it shows sometimes in the standings. Let's just say that.
That would be tough.
It's tough to maintain, dude.
Yeah, dude.
That's a good idea, though. Kick them out and go
It
around in
is.
a circle. It's a good idea.
Dude, well, the funny
but it's
part
really
was,
fun being an auctioneer. Just for if you guys haven't done it, it's really fun. But go ahead, Norton.
this is so like the way that I got into that way was I'm in a fantasy baseball league, and with a bunch of these older guys, and that's how they do their auction. And I was like, man, this is awesome. We spend like all day. It's like 7-8 hours for that draft.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, man, this is the best. I got to get like all my home leagues on this. And I was pushing it for years. And finally we got my main home league on it. Cause a few of the guys that are in the baseball league are also in the football league too. So they're all about it. Yeah, they were pushing for it too.
Do you have is it a keeper as well?
Yeah.
Or no?
Yeah. 2 keepers. You got to
keep them at the price that you got them for.
Yep. So you can only keep one for multiple years in a row. The other one has to be like a new one. So like last year I kept CMC and Higgins. I could only keep one of those this year.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
I could probably have a whole episode where we just talked about like best practices and things that we do in unique little rules. Like that shit is so interesting to me, and it's like cool to hear these sort of different things that people have in their leagues, man. Like I love it, and I love talking about like any home league I'm in. I'm like, yes,
I know. I'm the same way, man. I'm the same way.
That's cool. That's a good idea.
But boys, unfortunately, the time for that intro ends now.
We have that going the whole time.
We have a lot of games to go over, and I don't know the count, but we have to get through the remaining ones of these. So we're going to start off, and we're going to start off a little bit backwards here, but I think it's the freshest, so maybe it's the easiest to come off of. Last night, Seattle and Denver played. Seattle ended up winning, shocked the world pretty much. I don't think there's many people taking Seattle here, maybe outside of spreads and whatnot. What are we thinking about Denver's offense? I'm going to start with you, Norton.
Man, they didn't look great. I mean, Russ, to me, like Russ, I was expecting a lot more downfield action from Russ.
Yeah.
And as we saw, he checked down to the running backs a ton, and especially Javonte. And then, Judy and Sutton seemed like they both had decent games. No, neither really busted. Neither was really great. Judy probably looked a little better. It seemed like, especially that big.
Yeah.
His routes were cleaner, it seemed.
Mm-hmm. So, and he had that big touchdown. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was just like first game, like kind of getting into it, and maybe Russ had a little bit of emotion going back to Seattle. I don't know what it was, but I'm hoping they look. Yeah, I'm hoping they look a lot better moving forward.
Rob, did you have any thoughts on this? Because I have some strong opinions on this.
Yeah, I have some opinions on it. I need to rewatch it. I want to see the all 22 of it, to be honest with you, so I can get the whole field view and see what was going on. I have a feeling that Seattle was playing their safeties pretty deep, kind of taking away that long shot, because that is what Russ is known for. And I think that's why that we saw a lot of those intermediate checkdowns to Javonte.
Sherman like coached up these CBs beforehand. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, I mean, what's he going to say the coaches aren't going to say? But
probably more.
Maybe
4 cornerbacks.
Sure. But
he played against Russ for like 8 years in practice, maybe a little less, probably like 6.
yeah, and Pete Carroll coached him for 10 years. So, I mean, anyways, what I was getting at, for the one thing that jumped out to me that makes me a little nervous was Sutton looked very confused.
Really?
There were a number of plays where Russ was telling him what to do on that play.
I think that's also it being loud, but go ahead.
True, that could, I mean, very well, that could be. I hope that's what it was. I don't know if it was like the play call. He was getting a little confused on maybe the offense is still kind of, I mean, it's a new offense for this everyone. So it might take a couple weeks for Sutton to get up to speed and maybe a different defense. Like I said, I just have a feeling those safeties are pretty deep, kind of taking away Sutton's threat. Javonte looked awesome. So Mario, I'll take the
well, it's early.
On that.
I'm getting yelled at already, like talking about him too much. So it's early. I'll keep it calm and cool and collected for my love of Javonte in here. Yeah. But I did have some takeaways, which is I thought Russ looked fine. I thought he looked better than fine. I thought he looked good, but I agree. It was a lot of checkdowns. It was a lot of short passes. Fine. So he didn't have these huge connections. I get it. This offense as a whole looked undercoached, and I'm not throwing Hackett to the Wolves or whatever. Like it's his first game coaching. He didn't have these guys in preseason. Like there was just a lot of things that they talked about after the game. Like they didn't even start any of these guys. Like they were just a mess. They were sloppy. Sloppy. And like you see that a lot in week 1. That's pretty much all I equate it to. I thought like the amount of shit Russell was getting on Twitter today has been blowing my mind.
He looked good.
He looked good. He looked like it wasn't like amazing because he didn't do any of those deep shots, but what is it? 70% completion percentage, 300 yards, 1 TD. Like chill out. And like if you watched it, it's not like I watched all the game last night. He looked fine. Like relax, everyone. You guys talked about Judy and Cortland. I think the answer to that question is both. Seahawks, flipping over to the Seahawks. Geno coming out looking good. He fell off a little bit in the second half, though. If you watched, like that offense kind of stalled in the second half.
They couldn't.
Penny stopped.
Yeah, they weren't going to keep that clip going. It was. He was like going into half. He was like 17 of 18 or something like that. It was something crazy. Like you can't keep that going. I thought Penny looked awesome, especially against a very
disappeared
good
in the second half.
It's a very good run defense, though. It is, and
bye.
Yeah,
I think he hit a touch limit, and they were like, "Okay, that's enough." That's honestly what I mean. But maybe
it made me comfortable. I mean, I'm happy with the way I watch that game. Like, I'm happy having him on my team. Like, I think he's going to be very good for this season.
I just don't know if he gets the touches.
I'm kind of in between you guys on this because like I think he looks good. Like I think he on plays he looks good. My biggest worry, and which is my worry with a lot of guys, but like is whether they get the pass work. Like yeah, especially the targets and receptions. Yeah,
you had 2 last night.
I know, and so I'm like,
it's an 8-game record.
And if he doesn't pick it up in that area, you become kind of a 2-down grinder. I mean, I think he's going to get goal line work regardless, but the problem is that if you're getting goal line work on a team that's probably bottom 5, bottom 10 scoring, and you're not getting the pass work, that's my concern with him. And if he starts getting more pass work and becoming more of like a workhorse and looking explosive when he gets the ball, then that's good. But he's got to get a little bit more pass work to be consistent enough, at least.
Last thing that we can move on. I agree with you on that. The only thing I'll say is I think Geno wasn't looking for the check down because of how fast he came out of the gates. Like Geno was on a tear to start the game. And I think if he gets off to a slower start, you might see some more checkdowns. Like I think he was like so in it, like so confident after the beginning of that game that he was trying to zip the ball downfield every play. And I don't think that's going to be that offense. Like I don't think Geno's going to be opening it up like that most of the games. I think we'll see a lot more checkdowns if he gets off to a slower start. I think there was just a lot of like first game he was juiced up, like
Yeah.
To Norton's point, we never have. I think he had
Gino?
6. No, we just haven't seen Rashad Penny catch that much. He
Oh.
had 6 receptions in 6 games at the end of last year.
Yeah.
And that's
true. I mean,
that's the thing is like I get worried with like those kind of guys. Like I don't know if you guys have you've probably noticed it. I mentioned it a lot. Like I'm very in on guys that get a lot of pass work, even if they don't have a huge split of the carries. And I'm like the guys like Penny or Chubb, trying to think Derrick Henry, those kind of guys. I'm generally a little bit lower than consensus, even if they get more the like a big part of the rushing attempts. If they don't get the pass work, they just become touchdown dependent. And I hate basically crossing my fingers hoping they get in the end zone. And then like obviously like for me, it like between those guys, when you think about those guys, it's like Henry and then Chubb and then Penny, like, and they're all good. Like if you could probably say objectively that they're all very talented runners. And a lot of people will say like Chubb and Henry are like two of the best pure runners in the NFL. And it's just like, but you're just every week you're like, please get in the end zone. Like, please get in the end zone or else you're probably going to bust. Like, and it's just that's my main worry, I guess, with Penny, really.
Yeah. We'll keep it moving, but he had 3 targets.
Mm-hmm.
Get that up to 4 or 5. I mean, I think that's doable. And Etienne had 4, dude. Najee had 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Aaron Jones only had 5. Like, it's still
right. And it's like you said, it's first game, and like you said, you very well could be right that like Gino basically was just feeling himself and just
saying,
going.
If he had 5 targets and 3 catches as opposed to 3 targets and 2 catches, like, is it a different conversation? Or
I don't know if it's a different conversation.
You know what I'm saying?
Like literally, we had
what's
so
the
much.
line? Like, what do you want to see? 8 targets? Because
I want to see
people are
it
going to have that.
consistently. No.
Okay.
If you get 5 targets, 4 targets,
consistently,
if you get 4 targets for 4 games in a row or something like that, I would be decently happy with 4 or 5. It's just that we haven't seen it from Penny at all.
I agree.
I did want to do one more thing before we moved on, and it's going to be short answers. And I'll start off with DK and Tyler Lockett. DK, I'm not worried. Surtain was on him a ton. He had a lot of receptions. Gino and him have a nice connection. Tyler Lockett, you guys are going to hate me for saying this. I think he's droppable in maybe more shallow leagues, maybe not 14, maybe not 12. 10 team, I think Tyler Lockett's droppable. Like you're praying for a huge game. Outside of that, you're going to see a lot of these 3 for 28 or 2 for 28, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's just like, what's his ceiling? Like wide receiver 28, 30? Like what's his ceiling? Go ahead.
For me, like I am wholeheartedly in your camp. I've been in that camp since Gino was the starter. The only reason Lockett had value was because of Russ. And that's how Russ plays the game. And that's why I'm so high on Sutton this season. Not take that away, dude. Like Gino won't be able to get that ball. I mean, he can, but it's not going to be.
Doesn't do it. He's more
won't be at the
disciplined
clip
now.
that Russ was doing it. So yeah, you're 100%. You might get a game where he puts up 30 points, but it's not going to be 6 or 7 games how it was with Russ. It might be 2 or 3 this season. And it's like, are you going to gamble having him in your lineup for?
Yeah, it's going to be miserable.
Once in a while.
It's funny. I was literally going to ask you guys how you felt about those two, because earlier I tweeted something out about like guys, like a list of guys that you could like I would feel comfortable with dropping, and some of them were like a little bit deeper, some of them were shallower, and I put Lockett on there and caught a little bit of heat. Some people said I wouldn't drop Lockett, and it was more of a I did give the disclaimer afterwards that that's kind of more of like a 10-teamer. Like it wouldn't be my first drop of the group, but like you said, like what is the true upside of it? I mean, you're probably the second. I mean, obviously DK looks like he's the top. He seems like he's always been the top, and especially with the sample size we've seen with Gino, he's the top. So when you're talking about a second option on a Gino-led offense, I mean, what really is the upside with Lockett at this point? And I've always been a huge Lockett guy.
Yeah, you just have to get lucky that you have a receiver on bye and you throw him in and he booms. Like otherwise, you're going to get 3 points. So, but the only thing is like, who are you going to drop him for? I mean, Curtis Samuel, sure, I would do that in a heartbeat, but he's got injury risk. We all know that. We talked about that.
Well, in 10-team, you have a little bit more options. Both of us are kind of saying 10.
Yeah.
Although
I'd like to see it, but like, say it's a 12-teamer, dude. Like, are you gonna drop him? Because I don't know who you're getting.
But like, eventually, I probably would. I would
See, and
probably rather have Duvernay.
see, and here's the thing. I mentioned this too because someone said they wouldn't really drama. I said, think about the guys that could be out there more leagues than not. Would you do it for Julio,
I would do it for Julio
Yeah, I would do
easily.
it for
It would
Dotson,
even be considered.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Samuel,
Yep.
Yep.
Jeff Wilson? Even if you don't really, I mean,
Yeah,
like
I would.
it's
Now,
probably more
yeah.
upside. Yeah.
Yeah.
Khalil Herbert.
Probably.
I'm
I'm
not
still
fully
probably
sold
doing
on
this.
Herbert.
It-
I'm not
it-
fully
I
sold
guess,
on
I guess
Herbert.
that means like if I'm like, which most of my teams are probably way wide receiver heavy, so I'd probably
Mhm.
have the extra. If I was like very loaded in RB, maybe I wouldn't. But like,
Right. But Herbert to me, like
I'm
if you're
always looking for
if it's
flyers on RBs.
right, exactly. And if you're stashing both on the bench, if you're not planning on playing Lockett, Herbert is a higher upside stash because
Easily.
obviously
Yeah.
so if you're just stashing
Yeah,
on the bench,
right.
then I mean I'm going to go with the upside. So like I was thinking about it and I was like, man, I mean those guys are out there in more than 50% of Yahoo leagues, all of them pretty much except for Julio. I think Julio was like 30% out there, 40 but even still, like, and then like you said, in 10 teamers, even more guys will be out there. So it's like, that's where I was kind of like, I mean, at this point I would take like basically all those over Lockett at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot.
It's crazy how confident I feel about this conversation because I think we'll go back to this. We'll be like, oh, there was this 30-point game, and we'll see that twice this year. And we'll be like, finished wide receiver 35, 40. He might finish like, I don't know, dude. It might be pretty bad for him. Let's keep it going. We'll go to the San Francisco 49ers played Chicago in what looked like a full-blown hurricane before the game. So the field was soaked. It looked like they had the worst draining conditions I've ever seen. I'm going to kick off. Well, a lot of these probably are going to kick off with you, Norton. What was just some of your takeaways from the game? How are you feeling about some of these guys?
So I feel like this, out of all the games this weekend, this is like the biggest one to just throw away. I mean, just because of the weather, like it's just like it's so hard to take anything away from it. Like it was so bad. I mean, there was this massive puddle. Like it was just like so much standing water everywhere. It was brutal. So like, most guys had bad games, but I mean, even still, like the other thing about it too was not only that, but both teams kind of profile as like, more like run heavy, slower defensive team. So like I don't think it was going to be like a big high scoring game to begin with. And then you add that into it. So it was like, and plus you're talking about two young quarterbacks, who are making, like, obviously Lance was making really like his third start. Yeah. And so he has such a small sample size. Like, so it was just like, to me, I mean, basically throw it away. I'm not worried about like pretty much anyone that I mean, everyone pretty much is still like the same for me. So I really haven't changed much valuation on anyone.
Yeah. I'm in with you. I can't believe the amount of hate that Fields and Lance are getting because they had bad games, and these it blows my mind. We saw this. Was it last season that this happened in San Francisco, or was it 2 years ago? The same thing happened. It was in San Francisco. It was like it was with San Francisco. It was either last year or 2 years ago when Joey Bosa was sliding on the field. It was the same conditions. The score was like 9-0 at the end of the game. And it was the same thing, but no one was calling Jimmy G out for having a bad. Like, it just is crazy. Mike Martz came out and was saying, like, I never thought he was going to be good. He's a terrible quarterback. What are you talking about, man? The guy, he's barely played in the NFL, and he's in a tsunami right now, and you're going to come and talk trash because he had a bad passing game in those conditions. Like, makes absolutely zero sense. Like, throw this game out, especially for the two quarterbacks. You're not going to run in this with them because they're going to get hurt if they're running around. Like, that's how you tear an ACL. And the game plan, if I was San Francisco, if I was Chicago, like, I would not run my quarterback because they're going to get hurt. Well, so like that was probably in the thought.
Yeah. And like,
for me, the only takeaways, I'm sorry, Mario, and I'll let you go, but the only takeaways for me are like snap percentages. Only thing that I get away from it, Montgomery had a 66% share, Herbert 29. The only thing that scares me about that is Herbert got the red zone work, which is very scary for me because I have a lot of Monty because I think he's a good player. If he's not going to get the red zone work, it's very scary. Jeff Wilson ended up with 59% of the snap share. other than that, man, it's like just throw it away. Like you can't get anything from that game.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Sorry, I was gonna say with the snap percentage you mentioned with Wilson, he got 100% too after
the injury.
The injury. So
he didn't look great.
But
yeah,
again, man, like throw it away.
Look,
No,
yeah,
no
we're not gonna stress about this game because I think like I've already gotten text from Alex and others about Komet, and like he was one of my favorite
makes no
tight ends
sense to
as
me, man.
his value, and they're like he didn't have I think he had one target, maybe one, and like stop, just relax.
Yeah.
The only thing that I'll say is, and this is for fair reasoning, Fields looked better than Lance, and like they're both playing in the same wet football stadium.
Sure.
Fields look better. But Fields played in Columbus for 3 years, 4.
right.
And Columbus is notorious for it's raining pretty much most of their season. Like you don't get snow in Columbus. Like it takes till about February till you get snow in Columbus.
Yeah, and like again, I don't think anyone's ever said like Lance is a prolific passer.
Right.
He's got value because of his legs, and Fields has value because of his legs. But going into college, man, and even in Columbus, he was a prolific passer in college. Like he was one of the best passers in college football. That's why I think last year was an anomaly for him. I don't get the hate on how bad of a passer he is because he truly is a very good passer.
I agree.
If he shows it, man, like I think he's good. I think he could have a really good year.
It's tough to do it on that team.
100%, dude. He's got no offensive line, and he was throwing to better wide receivers in Columbus than he is in Chicago. So it's like he's got to get past those hurdles, and if he does, I think he's gonna have a good career.
Yep, I definitely agree with you. Like I'm still very high on Lance for fantasy.
Yeah,
and I'm still high on Fields as well. Like they're gonna run. They'll be fine. Fields, I do agree. I do think Fields is a better passer. Like, I just think the only reason I have Lance higher is I think he's going to run more. He's going to get more design runs, and he's insulated in like a better offense with more playmakers around him. So like guys that can just take it and go, and he gets all that with them.
That's the thing. It's like for me, I'd rather have Lance. I think Lance is going to have a very good season. One, I think he's going to run a lot more with designed runs than Fields will, and two, like you just said, man, he has the weapons. He has an offensive line. He has, he's going to have a really good run game. Like there's a lot more to work with in San Francisco, even though if Fields was in San Francisco, man, I'm talking like,
right.
That's the limit.
I just want to mention one thing. My red flags are still very strong for Debo. I'm still worried.
Mm-hmm.
Him getting 8. Okay, there we go. I see it. 8 targets and 8 carries. I don't remember those being anything valuable targets when I was watching this game, but the fact that he's getting that many carries and now that Elijah Mitchell is on, I don't think that's going to slow down, which you might be like, Salvo, your mouth might be watering. I can't even say it. It worries me, dude. It worries me. It worries me that it pulls from his target share. It worries me that it's going to put him in bad situations with big old ass linebackers tackling him. Everything about it kind of panics me. But I didn't draft him. I wasn't in on him then, so I would say sell if he could, but I don't know if you boys feel the same.
It's an interesting question. Like, what does this do to Debo with the injury to Elijah?
I think he gets 8 to 10 carries a game. I really do.
Which is where he made.
But it was wet. It was wet. So maybe it's more like
that's why he was a top 5 receiver last year.
Part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he had 1,200 yards receiving.
It's so interesting with Debo because, and this is heading into the year why he was like one of the hardest people for me to rank was because you don't know. Well, one, you just got to bank in that you're not gonna get like the most efficient player of all time, basically, and you got to bank in that regression. But you also we didn't know what his role was going to be, and it looks like obviously he's still going to be a hybrid. He's still going to get touches, and obviously we saw last year when running backs went down that he got more carries. The thing is though. Even though he's good at that, like I want him to get more targets than carries, like because a target
2.5, 2.7,
yeah, something like that. So like, it's more valuable for him to get those targets, but like obviously he's good at the rushing, so it's just it's so hard for me to really. I mean, like it's just I don't know what to really expect out of him. Still, it's still kind of a red flag. I just don't know what to do.
I don't get it. Like, just watching the games from last year, he was so efficient. And so, I mean, especially in the red zone
He was a yak monster.
he was. And like, even with the rushes, like he would get it at the 20 and just take it to the house like every time. It was crazy. So, I mean, if he's doing it again,
8 out of
dude, like
64 or something.
if he's doing it again, we need to shut up and say he's really good.
It was a little bit later, but like I was ready to start even going crazier until he got that TD. We're going to move on to the next game. Before we do, we had a question come in from Albert. Who's the better replacement for Dak? Tua, Winston, or Wentz? I'll go to you, Rob, first. And you get
me, Rob.
Yeah. Oh, so
Man,
sorry,
I'd have to look up
Rob.
schedules, to be honest with you, to see how it's going.
Off the tongue,
I'd go Winston. I think,
Ooh.
yeah, I think that's going to be because he'll get 30 passes a game. He has weapons everywhere. If Alvin Kamara gets some of those, we talked about him last night. I don't think he's going to be that great, but he'll be valuable for a quarterback in the pass if he gets some receptions. So I think there's a lot more to. I mean, I know Tua is very interesting. He's got a tough game next week. After that, though, it kind of opens up. So they're both very. I'd go one of those two. I wouldn't bank on Wentz.
You, Norton, you're up.
It is a tough one. I think I would lean Winston as well.
Yeah.
Same reasons, really. Same reasons. Yeah, honestly,
I
you know
what?
what?
I go Wentz. I go Wentz.
He's
love
playing
Winston.
Detroit, right?
Wentz has weapons. So does Jameis. But he just airs it out, man. Like, if you're looking for fantasy guy, none of these guys really run. Tua's very conservative. Great for Scott Fishbowl. Winston's probably him and Tua are the safest, but Wentz is going to air the ball out a lot, and I'm all for that. Dotson looked great.
If I'm looking for a replacement for my starting quarterback for half the season, I'm not like Wentz will get you those games like he did last week, but next week he's going to put up 15 or 12.
Come on. This offense looked fun. Week one overreaction.
And so did
Wentz.
what's might even be a hotter take, but I kind of feel like this is I honestly might even take Marcus Mariota over all of them.
I was just gonna say that, dude. I'm with you 100%.
Dude,
I love the running,
But,
dude. 12 carries.
I mentioned this on the episode last night. I don't know if you've got a chance to rewatch that game or if you got to catch any of it. The dude does not know how to get down. And I get like, I'm going to be your thorn in the side. Like always like, watch out. Yeah. Dude does not know how to baseball slide whatsoever. He runs just like Josh Allen, and Josh Allen's big, right? He can handle that
For sure.
And Daniel Jones does the same thing. And I hate that Daniel Jones and Marcus Mariota don't know how to protect their body. And it's why they get hurt. Like, it's so ugly, dude. It's so ugly.
I will say that, but like you're saying before, like if you're going for it, you go for it. Because here's the thing with here's my thing. Here's my thing with like guys like Daniel Jones and Mariota. They run. They're going to be on teams that are probably going to be throwing a lot. They'll sling it. And then the other aspect of it is should they get hurt, you probably still have those same other guys, Winston, Tua, Wentz, still available, so you can just grab them. Then at that point, I'd rather just go with the guys that run the most because they give you the most upside. But I understand the concern though. But like I said, if it's just a 1 QB league and those guys, those other guys are already out there, they're probably still going to be out there.
Well, you could say that. You said the most upside. It's also the safest floor,
right?
Like his floor is going to be capped at 15 points with the legs. And Mariota, for whatever it's worth, it seems like every game he finds his way into the end zone with his legs. So, like, I'd probably go Mariota out of the 4.
Gross. You guys are gross. I don't even want to be on this episode with Rob. Let's go to Philly and Detroit, and we're going to kind of go a little bit at a faster pace here. I'll kick it off.
Yeah.
DeAndre Swift is a monster. You know what? I'll use Norton's logic here. It was a little worrisome that he only had 3 targets in a game that they were down. That gives me some fears. 15 for 144 and 1. I love it. Deuce Staley bringing out the best runner in DeAndre Swift, and I love it. Probably wouldn't have been paying attention to all of that if I didn't watch Hard Knocks. And Amon-Ra, he is clearly I'm not saying he's top 12, but he's definitely like
Top
what
12
I'm
maybe.
taking from week 1, and in this
Top 12.
I don't think this is going to change. He's definitely taken over golf's favorite target, which I used to think was TJ Hawkinson in the field. He's definitely taken that over. I guess you could say that was
Can
to
you
be
just
expected.
can you just say, Rob, you were right?
I had to
Please.
trade Damian Pierce, so I don't think he's going to finish 11th. So I don't know. I could say you were right on your thought process.
I still think he's going to finish top 12.
I gave you half of it. I said you were right on the thought process.
The other thing
I
that
think top 20 is easy.
my major takeaway from this game, I think Detroit's going to be down a lot. They're going to be passing a lot, and there's going to be a lot of targets to Amon-Ra.
They didn't do that bad. I mean, Eagles might be really good. Really good.
Come on.
They might be really good. Their defense is supposed to be good.
Sure, they're going to but Detroit's defense is so bad. It's not good. It's not a good defense, dude. They're going to give up 30 points a game.
And that's a thing that's like awesome for them. They could turn into this, like, we see it, you know, every year with a few teams where they're like, a lot of people like to call them the carnival teams, where they basically just like the defense isn't that good, but their offense is good enough to keep up. So it's just shootout after shootout. Yeah. And like Arizona's kind of like that too. And so you just
in a bad spot.
They are.
Place.
But I was gonna say the thing that's encouraging. I was reading these the stats about Swift. He ended up with 2/3 of the snaps. He ran he didn't get many targets, but he had a 66% route participation. So that's encouraging moving forward. Even though he had only 57% of the rush attempts because Jamal was still involved. These are the kind of guys where like I still love them even if they only get about half the attempts because he got 2/3 of the short down and distance. He got 100% of the long down and distance, and he got 2/3 of the route participation. So,
do you have the goal line work?
I don't have the goal line work.
Seemed like Jamal was getting it.
I think Jamal did. See
annoying.
that is like a little bit of an annoyance. It's like Jamal getting the goal line work, and then he gets like half the rush attempts.
Swift.
See,
if he got the goal line work,
to feel like we know what Swift's game is though, and like we were never exactly expecting him to be on goal line. Like TDs is not necessarily anything that I'm like, okay, he's gonna have 12. That's not what I projected. I projected him out to have a ton of receptions. A little disappointed here, and not too bad. I'll take 3 receptions all day. And also like these big runs, which is what he had. He had a huge run.
You know what which a lot of people have kind of like him to Austin Eckler, obviously, just like the style of game. But like really, it's very, very similar when you look at like the snap percentages, the percentage of rushing attempts, and like Kamara and like basically like
he is Alvin Kamara light. From a couple years ago,
and it's like heading into last year, the big concern with Eckler was will he get touchdowns, right? And obviously Eckler came through with the touchdowns, and that's what boosted him so much because he always had everything else. And even despite half the carries, and it's the same thing with Swift. Like if Swift gets those touchdowns, if he starts getting more of the goal line work, then he becomes basically what Eckler was last year, just on a slightly lesser, probably a lesser offense. But
this is exactly what they started off with last year too. Jamal was very focused in the offense for like probably the first 4 weeks. I don't know if that was like injuries or if they were like, okay, we're going to kind of just slowly get Swift as our guy here. I think it was a little bit of both. And Jamal isn't necessarily the healthiest RB, but like, again,
he didn't want to count on that though, man.
I like Jamal.
I love the guy. He didn't look great. Dropped a couple passes, stuffed a couple times at the goal line.
Flip to Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown.
Yeah.
Did you love it, Robbie?
Loved it. Dude, I'm so glad I kept him in my one league. Me and Mario we were talking about in my one draft that I had the option of keeping him or Pitts. And I went with AJ because I was pretty confident that I could get Pitts in the 3rd round on my comeback, which I did. But I'm so happy I kept him in. He's going to be the focal point of the offense. It looks like they're making, and him and Jalen Hurts have a connection already.
Yeah, they're best friends or something like that. They
were working out all offseason even before
Yeah.
Even before he got traded there, they were working out together. So like this is going to be a thing. I think he's going to get 12 targets a game, and if that's what happens, he can be scary because he was a monster off of 70 receptions. He was a top 15 receiver. So if he's getting 120, 130, 150 targets, good Lord. What he could be he could be a top 5 wide receiver.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he just racks up yards. Norton, how do you feel about that connection? And then I'm going to add on top of that, because Rob spoke a little bit on it. Devontae Smith, are you worried?
Yes. So I'm a little worried about Devontae Smith. I do think that they're so early on. I think Hurts and the Eagles were like pretty pass heavy, like in terms of dropbacks in neutral context. And I saw the final numbers, and they were like top 10-ish, I think, on the week, somewhere in that range. They weren't like early on, they were like really high. And then so like I had tweeted out something that was like, if they keep up this kind of drop, because they went really, really run heavy last year. And like, if they keep that kind of drop back rate, like Hurts to me could be the QB1. Like, I mean, he was unreal. And he had did he only have one passing touchdown? Maybe none. Like
he had 0.
He had 0. Yeah. And he still had like 20 something. He was like top 5 or
top
6
4.
QB.
He was 4.
It's just so insane.
Oh, he had a rushing TD though.
Yeah, he had the rushing. Yeah,
that's true, man.
Like that's just if he keeps that kind of dropbacks up, because he had his design run rate wasn't even like crazy amount, but when he drops back, if his first and second read isn't there, he's just taken off. And for him, like people who
he knows how to get down too.
Yeah,
and
for sure. For sure. And so if you have him, you love it. Devontae Smith obviously is a little bit worrisome, and it was kind of worrisome heading in. I think he's a good player. I'm not like panicked, but like I think he's a good player. And so I think, but the problem is that, if Hurts does run that much, that obviously lowers the pass attempts and could be worrisome, especially if AJ Brown eats every game. So it's a little worrisome.
The weird part is he had 30 attempts. He had 32 attempts. And Devontae got 0. Was it 0?
He had 4 targets.
4 targets,
but 0 catches.
Man, like out of 32, and he's your wide receiver too.
Little odd.
It's weird. Like he was on the field 94% of the snaps, so like that's great. That's he's going to be on the field.
Yeah, he might be a buy low, but it's like
might be
one of those like, are you going to start him?
Right.
I'd have to see it.
When will he? Yeah. Like when will this prove to be a starter? And that one can switch, right? Like we can't see the path that the Lockett switches for us, but Devontae could switch. Like he could string together 3 11 to 12 point games. And you're like, okay, this looks a little bit safer.
Yeah, but I think like there were people saying, wide receiver 2 numbers, stuff like I don't see a path to that at all. Like he's gonna be wide receiver 35-ish.
Yeah, I could probably see that. Maybe nice flex. Last question before we go to Baltimore and the Jets. Miles Sanders, is he a sell high? I'm gonna just a yes or no, Rob.
Yes.
Norton.
Yes.
Ooh,
yes.
He found the end zone.
I don't trust it.
But
yes,
it's gonna be hard to get to work with Hurts there.
That's the thing.
And
Gainwell, like Gainwell is going to eat into it, and Miles,
it's so discouraging. I mean, like it was encouraging, obviously, to see him get in the end zone, but so I think I was looking at it. It says, Sanders had 51% snap share, 42% route participation, and 44% of the rushing attempts, but Gainwell had almost 70% of the long down and distance work, and when it was a 2-minute drill, he was in 88% of the snaps, and plus Boston Scott had 38% of the short yardage stuff. It's just gonna be ugly, and so like it's a three back committee, and then you add Jalen Hurts on it, who's gonna get rushing touchdowns, and like to me, like I have Miles Sanders. I don't have Miles Sanders very much because I was very, very worried about this heading in. The only one I got him in was I had him in a dynasty that started a couple of years ago where I was big on him. And I have him in like a home league that I got him the auction for like $6 or something. And so like,
I'll take that.
Right. And that's why I got him. And so I'm like, man, I really hope I can kind of move him after this game. I've been trying to, and no bites so far, but I'm trying to move him everywhere.
Now
That's the
you
thing,
might have
right?
tainted his market.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like you got him at a steal wherever you
Mhm.
took. I mean, more than likely you got him at a very good value. So if you can parlay it into, somebody like it, you parlay him, try to get like in a Monra St. Brown or somebody like that, like
For
someone that
sure.
needs a running back that has kind of an overflow on good receivers. You can go for it and see what you come up with.
And that's what I would suggest for people who have that kind of situation. Because a lot of times he started sliding a lot in drafts. So like a lot of people have him as their third or fourth, maybe even.
Yeah.
So like personally, like the underlying usage like that, if it's going to be a 3-back committee along with Hurts on top of that, like I'm trying to sell him as much as I can.
I like it. Let's move to Baltimore and the Jets. I mean, the biggest takeaway is Lamar needs to be paid from me, but I think I want to kind of I want to start the conversation off with this. Everyone from the Jets really underperformed. I mean, nothing really looked good. Michael Carter was probably the highlight of that team for fantasy. So the question to both of you, and I'll start with Norton, are you buying anyone from the Jets?
I'm still
trading for, or just like you like them?
Trading, because they may have lost some value. So are you trying to, send some offers, some low ball offers, maybe not the lowest of balls offers? I don't have coffee tonight, man. COVID got me on water.
Swing low, sweet cherry.
You buying anyone from the Jets, Norton?
Yes. So like, I think you could. I think
Moore guy too, right? Elijah Moore guy.
Yeah, I love Elijah Moore. The other thing is like when you look at the route participation for these guys, like I know Garrett Wilson and Corey Davis had, I think, the top 2 amount of targets on the team, but Elijah was in for 90% of the routes. Davis was only 68%. Garrett Wilson with 56%. So Elijah was kind of like the full-time guy, and then they rotated basically Davis, Wilson, and Berrios a bit, because Berrios was 47%. Mm-hmm. So Elijah to me is still the guy. And I do like Garrett Wilson. Like he did really well with the limited routes that he got. So like that's very encouraging. So I actually do like both of those guys. And I also think that like Carter looked good for sure, and I like him. But I do think eventually that Breece Hall is going to kind of start taking more and more as we go on.
Dude,
so
that gets murkier and murkier, but I agree, but it still gets murkier and murkier.
But that's the thing, is that I think so. Like the problem is what's going to happen is as soon as that game where Breece pops off with any kind of like big, right. Like, and not only that, but you're not even going to be able to get him pretty much anywhere as soon as that 100%. Happens. So like the only time to do it now is when there is those question marks and take that risk.
Hold on, Rob. So list out the buy lows for you if they're discounted.
Elijah, Breece, and I would say Garrett Wilson
might be cheap.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Breece he could be pretty cheap. I mean, I know a lot of people had him pretty far down at this point.
I'll tell you, like I drafted him in 2 of my leagues. And like I was not high on him coming into the season. Like I was like, all right, he's gonna be good. He's a rookie. Like we'll see what happens.
59 attempts from.
I'm I'm super happy that I have him. Like I think he's gonna be the second half of the season. I think he's gonna take over. Well, not fully, but he'll probably get the majority of the share. Dude, he was only on the field for about 50% of the snaps. He had 10 targets. Like
Michael Carter had 9.
I don't care.
I'm just telling you.
I know. I'm just
Joe
saying,
Flacco.
But I'm just saying, like, I could care less. Like, it seems like they're trying to get the guy the ball. And I mean, sure, I think he's going to have a lot more carries moving into the future. But even if he doesn't, like, if this offense is playing from behind most of the games, I think he's going to come away with 10. I mean, if he's coming away with 10 targets a game, that's crazy. That's crazy.
You know what's crazy too is so he like one thing that I didn't expect. I expected I honestly heading into the year expected him to be more of the lead down first and second down kind of guy, even though he's a good pass catcher. But I expected Michael Carter to be kind of the more change of pace, third down pass catching kind of guy. Well, the funny part about it is that the 2-minute drill, it was
Brees.
100% Brees, literally.
Mhm.
I mean, he at 2-minute offense was Brees the whole time, which usually
It's wild.
rookies aren't in there on that. Like that's the more fast pace. You got to quick, think quick on your feet kind of thing. So like that was encouraging to me. And like you said, he was only in like 45-50% of the snaps. So, it'll be interesting to see. Like Mario mentioned though, 59 attempts from Flacco. That's like crazy high. Like we're not going to expect that. So when it comes down, we got to see like kind of what that share goes to. And then plus obviously Zach Wilson going to come back at some point. And I think the thing with Zach Wilson is when he's in there, it's going to be less like check downs because he runs a little bit and he makes more mistakes throwing downfield.
Yeah, but if he comes away, I mean, I think what we've seen though from this offense is that he's a good pass catching back. He'll be utilized in that way. And even if it goes down to like 6 targets a game, 5 targets.
I
a game,
love
like,
it.
That's
I love
great. That's great. He's going to get more work in the with rushing.
That's pretty shitty.
I'm pretty confident with him.
Pretty shitty catch percentage. 60% for an RB. It's not great.
Yeah,
Not great.
Boys.
But was
I
it
don't-
him
it
or
is.
was
I-
it Flacco?
The
Right.
game that I've watched the least, so I would have to see what these targets look like because it is coming from Joe Flacco.
I was gonna say I wonder too. That's what I was gonna say. I
I'll
wonder
watch. I
if
wanna see
it's
it
more
drops.
because like we mentioned before, like with skip around to ETN, but the one pass where we were tilting,
Yeah,
and it's
that was
like
on ETN.
right. So one of them was on ETN, one was on Lawrence.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I
it's
see.
like-
yeah, there was 1-1 on that one.
Yeah.
Freaking-
So like I would be interested to see like with the ones that Brees missed, what was on Flacco, what was
Yeah.
on him.
Me too.
Switch over to Baltimore. Bateman ended up saving his day with a 55. I think it was a 55-yard TD. Andrews was relatively quiet, but I mean, they probably game planned. And I think the Jets, I can't remember if the Jets are great at defending tight ends. I can't remember. There was a history of the Jets with tight ends. He had 5 receptions for 52 on 7 targets. So he was targeted the heaviest on this offense. Duvernay, 4 for 54 and 2 TDs. I mean, it's got me. My eyebrows are raised right now, dude. Like, are we buying this at all? Like, I know that we both, all 3 of us, maybe not you, Robbie. I know Norton is about trying to maybe snack. Maybe I don't even know. Are you guys buying this at all? Are you picking him up on waivers, or like, what's your thoughts on this between him and Bateman is who I really want to know about.
I'm scared of all the receivers, if you want my honest opinion. Bateman was on the field 66% of the snaps, which I think last year's average wide receiver 3 was on like 78%. Duvernay was only on 52% of snaps. Can you count on a 50% touchdown rate to receptions? Like, that's insane. I don't know how to take it. Like, I don't know.
I'm curious
what
to
this
see
offense is
Hollywood's
gonna be, dude. Like,
I'm curious to see what Hollywood snap percentages are.
I think he was
the
up
whole
there.
time he was in Baltimore.
I think he was up there, to be honest. I could be wrong. I'd have to double check. Maybe it's because I don't know. Why was Bateman only on the field 66%?
It's very odd.
It's odd.
Yeah,
And it's scary.
It's yeah, I definitely agree. Like Bateman was a guy I was really high on heading in. Like it was like there was like 4 receivers in those mid range. It was like Bateman, Amon-Ra, Mooney, and Elijah. Like those 4 guys, I was like, I loved them. I was getting like as much of those 4 guys as I could in the mid rounds, and like I'm still in on all of them, but like Bateman's
the scariest.
Yeah, he concerns me a little bit because as you mentioned, he had like that about 2/3 snap rate. His route percentage was a little bit better at 71%. He participated on 71, but still, that's not even that great. I mean, the average, like when you were talking about for wide receiver 3s, was 78% route participation. You're probably right.
Participation that I saw.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're probably
snap share, dude. Like it can't be 60. Like
that's. I agree. And then and like he should be like, especially with the other wide receivers in this group, like he should be at like 80-85% route participation. I don't know if it was just like
that's
a first game. Maybe he wasn't like fully like the bet. Maybe he was like winded or something on certain routes, and he was just coming off the field for those kind of things, and it'll move up going forward. Obviously, like production was good. The target share at 18% is still low from what you want to see. So like he does have a little bit of concerns. I think he'll probably be fine, and hopefully we just see those route participation and the target shares tick up. Duvernay was a guy that I actually liked heading into the season, but more for like I was taking him like in best balls late.
Best balls.
Yeah. Like that's where I have like all my shares of Duvernay is like best balls late. And like, so obviously you love to see that, but
are you picking him up?
He's below all the guys we were talking about before for me, like below Curtis Samuel, below Jahan Dotson, below Julio. I mean, like I honestly not going to really put in much outside of deep leagues. Like 14 and 16 teams, some leagues I'm in. How many times
did Lamar throw it? See, this is what's weird to me, right? This is Mario. We kind of talked about this. I can't remember when it was. We talked about this previous that like I was concerned with this offense, not Lamar, not Mark Andrews really, but like everyone else, because it's like I thought it was going to be more spread out than it has been in the past, right? He threw the ball 30 times. Bateman got 5 targets. Like where were the targets going? You know what I mean?
I mean it was 2 to Justice Hill, 1 to Kenyon Drake, 4 to Duvernay, 5 to these are receptions. Sorry, everyone. 1 to Kenyon Drake, 2 to Justice Hill, 5 to Bateman, 4 to Duvernay, 7 to Andrews. Demarcus Robinson had 4. Isaiah Likely.
Get Demarcus Robinson out of there.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. Like
Isaiah Likely had 4,
which is
you know, this isn't. I just think they were like changing out guys. Ricard had 1.
Dude, I think this is going to be the offense. That was my concern coming into the season. Was like I think it's going to be a rotation of guys as opposed to just Marquise Brown.
Still just Mark Andrews is the pass catcher you want on this offense, but
for sure, yeah.
I think Likely will get some run. I think.
I don't think anything in redraft. Bateman, I think better days are ahead. I think you two are a little maybe on edge there.
I mean, you knew I was nervous coming into the season.
See, I'm not like too concerned. I do think those numbers. I do think the route participation and the target share is going to tick up because I do think between him and Mark Andrews, I was expecting like 50% target share combined between them.
Yeah.
So like I was expecting it to be like more like 26-27% for Andrews and like 23-24% for Bateman, like kind of like where I was thinking heading in. So like he's at 18%, and if his route participation goes up, I could see him ticking up 20-22% depending. I mean,
he gets to what 7 or 8 targets, like
right. But that was the thing heading in.
Pretty good.
Yeah, like that's why if he's Lamar, here like 2 or 3,
but it's not wide receiver 15, like which people Lamar think.
Right.
That's probably what Hollywood had last year. Probably more.
I don't think Hollywood had like 150, like 140 targets.
Yeah.
Hollywood did have a lot. I was surprised looking back. I didn't realize because I didn't have him much, but yeah, it is a little bit like I said. I mean, I'm more concerned about and I do think the thing is though, they're gonna throw more than they'd had to in this game. Like then when they get in games where they're not just blowing the team out, they're gonna have to keep the foot on the pedal a little bit more and throw it a little bit more. So the volume should hopefully keep going up. So
I like it. Let's take it to Carolina. Baker facing his old team. I had some takeaways here that I'm going to kick off with. And I think we could all agree on this. And we probably this is it for the backfield. Cleveland's backfield is more of the same. Yep. Chubb is awesome. Loses high value touches to Kareem Hunt. That was written by you, Norton. Kareem Hunt is going to be a steal of the draft as long as he's healthy. That's a clear indication too. Yeah. And I feel really kind of stupid for not banging the drum on that. I didn't necessarily expect this with Brissett. One of my takeaways was Cleveland's D-line is really tough. Going to be hard for RBs all season. I think that's what we saw with CMC. I think that is let's start there. Let's start with Carolina. CMC, DJ Moore. I'm going to put this in quotes, struggled. CMC did fine fantasy. I think he had 15 points. Football-wise, not amazing. I absolutely know your thoughts, Norton, but I'm going to get them anyways. Are you concerned?
Zero concern for me. I mean, like you mentioned, it was. Yeah, I know. Like you mentioned, like the Browns are one of the best D lines. I mean, they're going to be tough, like you said. The other thing is, CMC got no credit for that one where he picked it up and ran. So that's another 20, 30 yards that he just
He
gained.
didn't get any points for that?
No, it doesn't count for any yardage. It counts because it's considered a fumble. Yeah, fumble recovery yardage. So he got no yardage for that. Otherwise, he would have had 50, 60
You were
plus
for
yards.
sure searching that, weren't you?
Oh,
you were like,
I was ready.
So many leagues. You're like, you had your email typed out to Yahoo, ESPN, and Sleeper. Like, excuse me, CMC had 30 extra yards.
Dude, it was fun. It was cracking me up because Ian Hartitz, if you search his stuff, he tweeted out the video of it, and he said something along the lines of like, this is such a travesty. You need to do something about this, and tag Joe Biden. He's like, we need to make a change here. But yeah, so like but the thing was, CMC had third highest snap rate among all running backs on the weekend. He had 80% snap rate. Obviously, it was a little concerning with the lack of targets, but I think what happened with this game was, and what I was worried about heading in, is basically like slow paced Browns kind of play where the Browns like are going to try to just they're just going to try to grind it out, especially with Brissett. They just want to play a ball control type game. They want to run with the running backs as much as they can and keep the other offense off the field. So I do think like the Panthers are going to throw the ball a lot more often moving forward. So I'm not too concerned about really anyone.
Yeah.
Let me double down on this question. I'm going to talk about all the wide receivers in this game because I think there's 2 busts and 2 surprises. And I'll give my thoughts, and then I'll go to you guys. Amari Cooper might be a buy low, and you might be able to just wait it out maybe another week or 2, get him low, and then it's going to be a stash until Deshaun Watson. So it's a playoff play. That's honestly what I think. I don't know if there's going to be much upside. He was missed a ton by
He was getting open, man.
He was
getting open.
DPJ is another stash in my mind. Again, probably not hitting your starting lineup. Possibly when Deshaun Watson gets back, it may
look
be
good.
a whole new world. He looked really good. He made some really good grabs. Robbie Anderson might need to be on rosters. I mean, I think he's on your waiver wire guys, Norton. DJ Moore looked rough, but I think Ward shadowed him quite a bit in this game. So any thoughts to add on to what I just said there as far as the wide receiver camp goes?
Yeah, DJ, I wrote about that earlier. I think he's going to he's a trade early season trade target of mine that after the first couple weeks I'm going to go for him because he's got 2 tough matchups. He's got Lattimore coming up and the New Orleans Saints. So I think I'll have another
Lattimore shadows a ton.
Yeah, I think he's going to have another rough game. He had Denzel Ward on him this entire game.
Might
Robbie
be a
Anderson,
nice play to play Robbie Anderson against Saints.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch him. Like he had all his points on one play for the most part. I know he had 8 targets.
It was about 70 yards.
Yeah.
75-yard TD.
It was a busted coverage that like shouldn't have happened. So
it is Robbie. It's Robbie Anderson's game though. He is Robbie with an IE now. So like, I mean,
you're right. I mean, maybe that's just like, can you count on that once a game? It's kind of tough for me to kind of bank on that.
I know we got
like a
Lockett
in
here. The Lockett, the Duvernays, the Robbie Andersons.
I just don't like him, man, because it's boomer. It's really boomer bust. Like I think DJ Moore is gonna have a really good season once like he doesn't get these top tier cornerbacks. Christian McCaffrey, he'll be fine. Like I think Baker's gonna figure out like, hey, I can just dump it off and get 20 yards. Like I think he'll figure that out throughout the season. Yeah. It's gonna take him some time to figure it out. You want to talk about a trade low target? Like go get David Njoku if you can. Like for me, I'm go get David Njoku. He's
probably on waivers.
Crazy to me that he only got 1 target. He was in the game 89% of the snaps. Like it won't happen again. It's not going to happen again. Like if you can get him, this is the week to go get him because I think next week he'll have 10 touches.
it's going to be hard to put him in your starting lineup with Brissett until you see that consecutively.
I'm not worried.
Oof. Norton, do you have anything else to add on this game?
Not really. I am with Rob on the Njoku. I just think like
agree on everything. It's got to be you guys' first names.
It's got to be. I mean, it's a great name, right? Yeah. So, but no, Njoku. The thing is like he played a lot of snaps. He runs a lot of routes.
Ran a ton of routes, man.
That's the thing is like they only. I mean, DPJ obviously is like solid.
He always
not
has
like,
though.
Yeah, well,
Njoku has
different though. It's different.
So here's a thing with Njoku. I was trying to find it here, but I know like the 1 year that he ran like above, it was 2018.
I was gonna say, his rookie year.
Yeah, he ran 78%. Yeah, second year, 78% routes, and he was tight end 9 points per game. The other years, 2017, he was 42% routes. 2019, he was 9%. 2020, 31%. 22, 51%, and then in the preseason he ran 80%. So like the only other year he was even above it. What's that?
What was game 1?
I was trying to find that, and I still can't find it.
I think it was like 75 or so. It was up there.
Right. So I think like as long as he's getting the routes,
and he's going
and as long as he's getting the routes, like it's not going to be great with Brissett, but like the bar is low for tight ends. So like it's like if you're getting a lot of routes, I mean, it reminds me of like Logan Thomas, like from the previous 2 years where it was like not a great offense and they only had Terry McLaurin. And so Logan Thomas was just getting a lot of routes and then just getting a lot of stuff and ended up voluming his way to top 5, top 10. I mean, I'm not saying he's gonna be top 5 or 10, but like he's gonna be close on that top 12 border.
I'll piggyback on that.
Pointless, right?
I'll piggyback and then we can kind of keep moving. I think Brissett kind of gives him a little value because he has shown that he likes to use his tight end. Previous years, Mario, Hooper was there. They paid him the money. They finally gave Njoku the money, and they're going to find a way to get him the ball. I'm confident. I'm not worried.
Real bad.
The money talks. They're going to get him the ball.
I don't want any pass catchers on this team unless they're named Kareem Hunt.
I can
outside of stashing them for when Deshaun Watson comes back, which is what I mentioned on the other guys.
It's definitely fair. It's just that like, and it's not like Njoku is like my top like guy to get. I mean, there's like I think I had him ranked like 12th or 13th heading into the year, but just like if you're getting that much routes, it's a lot of the guys like after the top 5, 6, 7 guys, basically the rest of the guys sometimes they're like 40% route, 50% route participation, and you're just like hoping they get a touchdown.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you're going to run out Jawan Johnson. Like, what? Give me David Njoku. I think he's going to be fine. He's going to have a good season. This was we get Njoku. Just do yourself a favor.
Speaking of high route participation, let's move over to Indianapolis and Houston, where Rex Burkhead, the lead RB in Houston,
here we fucking go,
had a 67% route participation. Norton, how about you tell us what you're thinking about this Houston backfield and outside of Cooks, we're not even going to talk about Cooks. He's the same. So I just really want to get your thoughts on the Houston backfield.
Yeah, I mean, I'd seen a lot of stuff on the old Twitter sphere with I seen a bunch of extra
stuff. If you saw stuff coming from us, it was him.
It was okay. I was gonna say it was a lot of X-rays with dogs in them. Damian Pierce, and I think they took the
ours.
No, I don't know whose it was, but
okay.
I was gonna say I saw a lot of people putting the dog in them stuff for Damian Pierce. I think they took it from Rex Burkhead's scans apparently, but no, it's so frustrating because obviously Damian Pierce looks so good. Like I will say I really didn't get in on the whole Damian Pierce thing. I didn't like draft him much because my big worry, I think I talked to you guys about it, was like, again, same thing with Rashad Penny. I was like, I like him, but is he a 2-down grinder on a bad offense? That's and if he's not catching the passes, then I just don't really want to, grab him. So it was definitely, obviously super frustrating for anyone who has Damian Pierce to see the usage of Burkhead. Sound like Lovie Smith said though afterwards, that he kind of like got lost in the moment or something. Like it was
Yep.
some weird. It was a weird quote. Like I was just like, how are you a coach that you get? Like, wait, what is going on here? You didn't know who you were using or whatever. I don't know. But so hopefully he can kind of make that correction, because clearly, like Burkhead, he's like, he's a solid player. He's a coach's kind of guy that he does the right things. He doesn't mess up, but like he doesn't have that juice. Like he doesn't have the explosiveness. Dameon Pierce obviously gives them.
Dog.
He doesn't have the dog in him like Dameon Pierce. So, but no, it's got to be frustrating. I mean, if this happens again, I mean, it's really, really worrisome, because that's a really, really bad sign. But yeah, hopefully like this week we'll find out more whether like it was kind of just a mistake and they can start using Pierce more moving forward.
Yeah, for me, I'll just speak on it. Let me speak on it. Give me some room. They would not have cut Marlon Mack and run out Rex Burke. If you assholes
did this last year,
if you think they are going to run with Rex Burkhead as their lead,
they did it last year.
You guys are insane. That's not it, dude. It was his first game in the NFL.
I think we see this all season.
I think you are
unless Burkhead gets hurt, and then in which case it goes back to your dream. Like it just, dude.
Once they realize
I don't think his tape looks as good as you thought, though. Like he really isn't that explosive of a player to me. Like he's just kind of a plain Jane. He's kind of a Rex Burkhead. He's kind of a Mark Ingram washed up on this offense, which he got 25 carries. Like he reminds me of He reminds me of all of Houston's RBs, and we're still talking about him. And like,
man, I wish we were in studio together.
I bought.
Smack you.
So I got him in an auction league. I was real surprised about this Norton for $8, and Robbie was so happy for me. I was pissed off. I traded him for Julio.
Yeah, I can't blame you. I mean, it sounds like basically what happened to me with Miles Sanders. I was like not in on Miles Sanders, and I got him for like $6 or $8 or something in an auction. It was just like stupid cheap, and I was like, well, whatever. But
when Julio's limping around in week 6 and Dameon Pierce is putting up 20 points a game, you'll come crying.
The thing is,
20 points.
Nah, that's not gonna happen.
The thing is, so Dameon Pierce.
Catch up. Go ahead.
That's the thing. Is like I do think like I agree with Rob in the sense that like
some time, man.
They're not gonna. Well, I know. I agree in the sense that like I do think they're gonna start giving him more carries, because like you can't watch Rex Burkhead carries and be like, this is what I want. But at the same time, my worry from the beginning of the year is still going to be there of, does this guy get the third down type work and the pass work? Because I don't think he's going to be in there. I mean, I know we've had I think there was a clip going around of him having a nice blitz pickup in the preseason.
Oh yeah.
But like, yeah, was it you? Okay. I remember seeing it. I do think even still, like him being a rookie and Burkhead just being like that consummate pro, like he's gonna be in there on like those kind of situations. And until that part switches, I'm still gonna be kind of more out than in on Pierce.
Yeah, he's gonna have to prove it. He's gonna have to prove it to this offense or to the coaching staff that he can do it on third downs, and I think he will. And I think it was the first game, not to mention the first game against one of the best rush defenses in the league. Like, I think coming in, they don't want. Are you going to throw him to the wolves and let them just go for it?
Their stud. He wasn't even in.
Who? Still, dude, it's still a great defense. It's still a really good defense. Like it's still
Darius Leonard.
It's still a really good defense. I have zero concerns. I kind of thought the first week for him wasn't going to be great. Like it's going to take probably 2 or 3 weeks for him to get going, get acclimated to this offense, get acclimated to the first team offense, let him figure it out, let him gain some trust of the coaching staff, and then he'll win you a championship, baby.
Let's flip to the other side. I don't really, there's not much else to talk about there. The tight ends are a little odd.
Weird.
OJ Howard comes in, plays like a tiny percent.
Don't get him. Don't get him.
He's not on our waiver.
No way.
He's not on our waivers. But it is a tight end room that I don't want any part of.
Agreed.
Personally, until I see more from OJ Howard, but he'll be gone after this.
I was excited for Brevin Jordan, but yeah, I'm not touching anybody.
I do want to say this before we move on, because I don't think there's much to talk about on the Colts. Like everything that has happened is too expected. I think Matt Ryan probably finished somewhere around 15 to 18, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of where everyone was projecting, maybe a little higher.
He's a great wide or QB2.
JT looked great. It's clear running back 1 is what I like to call him.
I figured you would. I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it.
No, Mike, I know. Next week I'm going to be like, JT looked really good in week 1. CMC is going to put up the 35. Yeah. Michael Pittman. I think he's going to have an elite year, boys.
Yeah, I'm ready to. He's going to be. I think we all were super high on him. We had him.
He doesn't have quite the talent that Jamar Chase has. He doesn't have quite the talent that JJ has. Doesn't have the Devontae Adams talent. He's got good size. He's like Julio Jones light, like
with some Michael
Julio.
Thomas thrown in there. Like he's gonna be good, man.
A little bit too. Like
he's gonna be good.
He now has a quarterback that loves their wide receiver 1. It's gonna be a huge year for him.
Yeah, he's going to be a wide receiver 1.
Like, this is one of the best feelings when you're, like, super high on somebody. And, like, Brian was tooting his horn from this about very early on. Yeah. I know our group, I think you, Norton, all of us were, like, pretty high on him. Consensus was pretty just high on him in general. And kind of, like, but the people that would fade him, even when he was going in 3rd round, he's the only target. And Alec Pierce did nothing to separate himself by dropping 2 TDs in this game. One deflected a little bit. Did you guys have anything to add to that? I mean, I went on my soapbox there.
I'm good.
Yeah, as I say, not really. Obviously, Pittman, great. I thought I'm getting obviously getting a little worried about our little Pittman DJ Moore.
Oh yeah, baby.
So it's like I love both.
DJ Moore against Ward was never going to be good.
Right. It's one game. So I still and I like I said, and it wasn't even like. And the thing is like. I think heading into it, like when we were talking about it, it was like I was still really high on Pittman. I was just so high on DJ Moore. Like, I
think you had them a spot away from each other.
Yeah, I think
you took that just for funsies,
right? So I still love both, and obviously Pittman looks like he's going to be an absolute stud. So
yeah.
Hats off to everyone that got him in the 3rd.
He's going to have a big year. We have 2 more games: Green Bay versus Minnesota. As far as Minnesota goes, right? Like I had 2 takeaways, and I'll go over to you. Okay, I was about to say it to you, Robbie. I'll go over to you, Norton. My 2 takeaways from the Minnesota side of the ball. I'm not even going to talk about Dalvin Cook because it kind of is just a mediocre. I mean, he's going to be a workhorse. Yeah. I think Christian Kirk might have his best finish in fantasy football this season.
Yeah. I
mean, it was 20 points this week, so it's not like that puts him at like QB probably 14 or something, maybe 12. I can pull it up. I think he might finish his highest that he has ever finished in fantasy football. And then JJ looks like he's going to finish wide receiver 1.
Yeah. I mean, the big narrative heading in was the whole Kevin O'Connell bringing over the Rams offense, and like they were talking about how was Jefferson. I think it was even Jefferson that came out and was like, he said how does Cup this wide open, and then like now he understands why he's this wide open.
Now,
and then
he's like, now I understand. Now I get
it. Then what happens first week? I mean, there's like countless plays where there's no one within like 10 yards of him. Like the dude was just roasting people. I mean, he's definitely one of, if not the best wide receiver. I mean, he's absolute stud. Cousins, I was big on him heading in, and like I think I had him like borderline top 12. Like it was like the Carr and Cousins. I loved those 2 guys because they were going like 15, 16. And they were the ones like I pushed them ahead of Stafford and Rodgers and stuff heading in. So like feel good about that. I mean, Cousins could have had a monster game if Green Bay kept it close because he was just he looked so good.
Yeah.
And then they just
in the closer games he will.
Right. And
That's
he's
the thing. Yeah.
People hate on Cousins for I just don't get it. Like the dude's been like top 10 like EPA and like all these things like YPA, EPA, like completion percentage over expected. He's been like all top 10 on like all these metrics for like years, and people just like hate him. And like the dude is good. And like he's just good. And then in a pass friendlier offense, like he should be. I agree. Probably finished with his best fantasy year this year.
I looked up his stats because I was trying to kind of get the best finish that he ever had, and it was like looking up. It was actually kind of surprising, like how
top 7 or something, top 5.
I think it's QB7 is his best year.
Yeah,
it was pretty surprising to look at his years and be like, wow, QB7's the best, and these are your stats. Like his stats are so good. They're like 4,600, 3,610. 4,900, and it's because he.
But you got to look at it. It's the offense that he's been in, dude. Like we talked about it before.
True. He also just doesn't run a lot, so like he's gonna have to throw a ton of TDs this year.
I agree with you, but and I think he will because Zimmer, dude, he just held him down. Like the biggest takeaway that I saw watching this game was the first drive. They got to the goal line. I think it was 4th down, if I'm not mistaken, 4th and 1, maybe on the 1 or 2. And instead of running it with the Dalvin like they always do, they did a bootleg and an easy catch and score for JJ. For JJ. That's what they're going to do. They're going to trust Kirk to throw within the 10-yard line, which they never did before, and that's going to add another 10 tutties onto his stat line.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see it happening because that play, I know exactly which play you're talking about. I remember watching it, like seeing it live on Red Zone, basically. That. Yeah, it was just like super, super easy. Like it was just wide open. JJ basically caught it, walked in, and it was just like so awesome to see. Obviously, like if you're a huge fan of like Cousins, Jefferson, both, or have them on your fantasy teams, like it was just so great to see that kind of usage that close to the goal line.
Yeah, and it was just like. That's the difference that I think is going to catapult him into top 8, top 5, where, but in previous seasons, they wouldn't have even gone for it on the 4th. They would have just kicked the field goal, taken the points, and that now they're going for it on 4th and letting him throw the ball. Like it's a big difference. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, there's
when you have a coach that's willing to do that.
More and more coaches are willing to do that. So kind of washes a little bit, but I understand your point.
Mm-hmm.
Irv Smith is droppable. I tried to backpedal a little bit, but I was still kind of in. He's droppable, dude. I don't think he's going to get used. This is going to be Thielen. This is going to be JJ. Dalvin Cook in the pass game. Madison will get a couple targets.
KJ.
Small.
He's on the field enough, man.
I said small, but yes. This game, flipping over to Green Bay, gives me a huge optimism for my Allen Lazard ranking going into the season.
Yeah, because
they clearly need a wide receiver.
That is true. It makes me a little concerned about fading Allen Lazard, to be honest. I mean, I was very low on him. Dude, it was so rough. I mean, Rodgers dropped that one straight in Watson's hands, and it was just like it could have been just an easy touchdown. Because he had good separation on that guy. And
was that Amari or Watson?
It was Watson. Yeah.
It was Watson. I thought you said Rodgers.
Yeah.
Rodgers dropped it in on him.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Rodgers.
I know, right? Hey, Rodgers at that too. But Aaron Rodgers, to me, I tweeted this out too, that to me, I was low on him heading into the year. So, but I think in one QB leagues, if he's your second QB league or second QB in a 1 QB league, he's droppable. Personally, I think. I mean, you could bench him and hope for better because obviously he's like super efficient when it gets down to it. He'll have his games. Obviously, he's no Hall of Famer, but like to me, he's like he doesn't. They're gonna be run heavy with the 2 running backs. So even when Lazard gets back, like they're gonna be run heavy. They're gonna work those guys in a lot. If you look at Rodgers' stats over the past couple of years, like he's the way he gets by. Like I think last year he was like QB 10. It's all the touchdowns, and he only throws like 4,200 yards or something. Like it's not even like a lot of yards, and like he's just so insanely efficient.
Yeah,
and he's
5
still
to 6 picks.
right, and he's still like barely top 10. Like so, like to me, like when you just count down like all the QBs, like to me he's like 14 or 15. So like in a 12 team league, especially if he's your second, like there's no reason to waste that second spot on him. Like I was looking, the only reason I was thinking about this is because I was looking through a bunch of my leagues, and I see like a bunch of like my home leagues, guys will have like one guy had Justin Herbert and then they had Rodgers on the bench. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like get a high upside stash on the bench, drop Rodgers. You're not going to trade him for anything. Like look around the league, everyone on the team,
QBs, yeah.
right. Everyone's going to have a QB they feel fine with. If not, I mean, you pick up a Mariota, you pick up a Wentz, you stream those guys week to week in good matchups. It doesn't even matter. Like to me, like, I mean, he's droppable, and especially 10-team leagues.
I couldn't agree more. There was a point in A-Rod's career where he was going QB 10 in drafts. I don't want to say in 2019 or something like that. Devontae elevated A-Rod, and not his game, his fantasy production elevated his fantasy production quite a bit. I am excited. I think in 12 teams, I'd tell you to hold off and see what he looks like with Lazard.
Right.
I know there's
That's
some Lazard like worry, but I have some faith in him, but we'll see. We'll know the answer to that very early on. They should.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm excited to see when Lazard gets back, how this offense will look, to be honest with you.
I think Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon was close to what we were expecting. Did anything surprise you in that backfield? And then we'll kick off our last game, but did anything surprise you with that?
No, not really.
There.
Yeah, not really. The only thing that surprised me a little bit was I think Aaron Jones only had like 5 carries or something.
I think that changes.
Yeah, like he
I think
didn't
it was just
have
because they were down so quick.
Yeah, and really,
but you'd also think that Aaron Jones would be in the game in that moment. You think AJ Dillon is more of this like
but he's not. He was.
Aaron,
yeah,
like Aaron Jones would be the pass catching back.
And that's part that was like a little bit worrisome to me. Like, I mean, I think when I was looking at it, let's see here, Green Bay, Aaron Jones was only 5 carries, 5 targets. He was in for 61% of snaps though. Yeah. So that's still encouraging, but like, and then he had 65% route participation, and then they definitely played them together because AJ Dillon was in 51% of snaps, and he got 10 carries, 6 targets. So I think it is kind of like what you'd expect. I just think that Aaron Jones is going to have more touches per game.
Is he a buy low for you?
Yeah, for me.
If you can. There's guys, when we say buy low on here, there's guys that are absolutely not selling low. But if you could get them for a discount, you're saying you're buying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm comfortable with both those running backs.
Same.
Last game, Las Vegas versus the Chargers. Keenan Allen left with a hamstring issue. Mike Williams didn't even exist pre-Keenan Allen's leaving or post. I think the other surprise, because I hear it in my ear constantly from Brian, is Josh Palmer also didn't exist in this game at all. And it was DeAndre Carter, who actually finished, I believe, wide receiver 2 on PFF's wide receiver grades, which is pretty crazy. 29-year-old DeAndre Carter, right? Yes.
Good old DeAndre Carter.
He came from Washington. I'm pretty positive.
He only had 4 targets, though.
I don't know where hey, I'm just telling you what PFF graded him as. I'm surprised that he only had 4. He did seem like he was very involved in this offense when you were just watching.
3 for 4 is 64 and a touchdown. Like,
So I guess they're coming up Thursday, and I'm going to kind of mix this here. We saw Everett. I'm going to kind of do a little thing. Like, what are we expecting? Is Mike Will coming back? I know we're not going to see 2 and 10, but like we mentioned Tyler Lockett. We mentioned, who else did we mention that's a big deep threat? That Duvernay. We mentioned all these guys. Mike Will somehow sneaks through the crack. Like that isn't kind of his game, but it kind of is.
No, it is. He'll be fine.
He's a big deep threat.
He'll be fine.
He's just not as fast.
Yeah, he's interesting because last year in the first like 6 or 8 games or something, he was like wide receiver 2 or something. Like he was on a tear. He had one down game. The rest of them were like unreal, and they were using him. His 8 out was shorter, so like he was awesome. And then all of a sudden, they switched him back to like a deep threat only, and then he went back to being like this. And like, so that was like a worry coming
Blew
in.
up against the Browns.
Yeah.
I think that was second half.
Yeah. And it was like the worry, heading in was like, are they going to be using him all over the field like they were in the first half of the year? Because he's going to be awesome if they do that. If not, then he's going to probably underperform a lot of weeks. So I think it sounds like Keenan's probably going to be out. And so I do think
Thursday.
Yeah, so I do think he's gonna play a bigger role.
Week.
Yeah, and he'll probably be used more like intermediate. Because it seems like the other guys are like DeAndre Carter was more of a deep threat type guy. Palmer kind of, I don't know.
It was weird because like, and this isn't just from Brian, but like Herbert gave a couple interviews hyping Palmer, and then for them to have the opportunity right in front of him, I think it caught him off guard. But it was just so I actually do think Palmer will be involved Thursday too. I think he could be a nice little flyer. Like if you're in need of a flex, I think Palmer could sneak in there. And then honestly, something Brian said, and I fully agree. If he doesn't do it this game, it's kind of like, well, I'm going to drop you wide receiver 3 on the offense that you should produce when you're given this opportunity. Eckler had a tough game. Are eyebrows raised there, or are we just kind of like it's week one?
Week one.
Okay.
I think back to last season, I think he had like no catches the first week, and everyone was freaking out. Yeah, and I was like, dude, this dude is like one of the best pass catching running backs. Honestly, if you look at his numbers, like historical, like good.
I mentioned this like multiple times, but he gave an interview in the offseason last year, and it had everyone freaking out. Like it was something along the lines like, I'm not going to be used in the goal line situations, and they're trying to make sure that I stay healthy, and everyone was panicking. And that's why he kind of went so late. I mean, he was probably going to go there anyways. Justin Herbert's Justin Herbert.
Yep.
Las Vegas, Devontae Adams dominated. Absolutely went on a tear. There's like 3 things in fantasy football that should have been 4, probably, that should have been certainties that we should have just drafted 1, 2, 3, 4. Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs. I think I'm missing a wide receiver here.
Chase.
And Jamar Chase. Like,
yeah, those guys are like, I mean, the crazy part about it is like those guys to me at this point are just like, they're not just 1 tier above the rest. They're like 2, 3 tiers above the rest. They're like
it's so dirty,
elite. Yeah.
Because it's so
unreal.
consistent. Like, we come into week 1 and these guys do exactly what they've done in past. And like, it's just crazy. Like you could call there might be a half tier there where it's like Tyreek Hill kind of lives in that half tier, like below him, and Debo, and that's probably it.
Yeah, it's tough because like
AJ Brown maybe too.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's so crazy because like you said, like I think people were a little bit worried, like Devontae going to a new team, is Carr going to be able to support him? Like, I think we've got to get over the fact. Like, I know before the whole narrative of receivers switching teams was concerning, but I think after the last 3 times, I think it's him.
It's not the chemistry anymore.
Yeah, him and DeAndre Hopkins was awesome as soon as he switched. Diggs was awesome as soon as you switch. If you're an elite receiver and you switch teams, like, and as long as the QB isn't just straight trash,
and backwards, right? Like Matthew Stafford coming to Cooper Kupp first year,
right?
Amazing.
So I think if they're good and if there's chemistry and like. It is what it is. I mean, he's an elite receiver. He's going to be elite.
The concerns that I had from this game for Las Vegas. Well, I think I was just very neutral on Josh Jacobs. If I would trade him if I can, I don't think I want any part. He looked fine. He looks good. He really does. He's not a big part of this offense, and that's what they said when they declined his 5th year. And he could have bigger games. And maybe actually I wouldn't trade him this week. Maybe I'll wait for one of those big games to trade him. But I think you're going to see a lot more of these sort of games. Renfro really concerns me because that's actually somebody that I expected to still get his. Clearly, he is not. I do expect also better days for him. But my God, man, was this Devontae Adams, Waller, and a dash of Renfro?
Yeah,
I think that's going to be what it is. To be honest,
that's what I was worried about heading in. It was kind of reminding me of like the
Green Bay.
Yeah, it was, well, to me it kind of reminded me of the pass heavier version of Philly, where you have AJ Brown as Devontae, then you have the good tight end, and then like Goddard as Waller, and then like obviously in Philly though there's less passing volume, so like Renfro is still probably going to get a little bit more than Devontae, but like it's kind of
value.
Right, but it's going to be like
valuable targets typically.
Yeah, and it's going to. But that's the thing that I was worried about with him heading in, and with Jacobs. Yeah, to me it's been more of the same. Like I've always been out on Jacobs. I was arguing with some people in the offseason about Jacobs, and I'm like, dude, he just like he did finally get pass work last year, like later on in the year, and I was so concerned that was more just a product of like guys getting hurt. Different. I think it was like Waller was banged up at times, and like other people were just banged up, and I was more concerned that was like a product of that. And a lot of people were like trying to sell that it was more product of getting Gruden out of there. And so like that was a huge thing I wanted to see in this game. Was he going to be involved? And like I think it was Brandon Bolden took like 80% of the long down distance work. So like, dude, like it's just like the thing
passing work, yeah.
It's so frustrating to me because like Jacobs, I think is good. Like I think he's a good player.
He's really good too.
Like he's one of these guys like Chubb, where like he's like a good player, and like
I like the usage of Chubb though. I really do actually.
Yeah,
as far as for fantasy now, but like even Chubb gets at least more touches overall. It might not be your fantasy touches, but Jacobs they just don't like to use that often. I mean,
for sure,
there were some moments with Gruden.
Yeah. And like if like this offense is like starts stepping up, which I expect them to do, like I expect them to score more moving forward, there could be a lot of times where Jacobs finds himself in friendly situations near the goal line, and but that's the thing. I think he's going to have to make his day on touchdowns, because I think they're going to involve Brandon Bolden, Amir Abdullah, like those guys. Zamir White will probably get more involvement as the season goes on. Like you said, they decline. Yeah, they declined the option. Like they've showed, like, it's so funny to me because like every year we get this narrative of like, this is the year of Josh Jacobs. He's coming in. He's gonna get the full workload. He's got all these metrics that are so great, and it's like they showed us every year like that they do not want him in the passing game. Like they go out of their way to add more guys to take over that situation, and it's the same thing every year. And so like to me it's the same thing this year, and the offense is going to be better, so there's a chance he does a little bit better with touchdowns. Like that's where I'm at with him.
It's funny because I was looking at our rankings. I wanted to see where I was. I swear I'm neutral. I don't remember what expert consensus was, but I had him at RB16. I scroll over to the right and I see Robbie with RB33. So Robbie is all out on Josh Jacobs. But weirdly, who I consider these two to be very similar in kind of similar situations, except the offense way different, David Montgomery and Josh Jacobs. I find them two to be very similar on how I feel about them.
I think Monty gets a lot more pass work. He gets a lot more pass work.
Jacobs had 60 receptions last year, but again, like I wasn't expecting that. I think it was 60 receptions, not targets. I think it was 64.
He did have a lot last year all of a sudden. And like that had me a little bit higher than I was in previous seasons. Like I think I finished with him around like 20, like ranked in like the low to mid 20s. So I had him like a back end RB2. And that's where I kind of like settled on him, because I did think I was like, okay, there's a chance that he gets a little bit more pass work than in previous years, and the offense should be better. So I was like, those are like at least some encouraging signs compared to before. But yeah, I don't think that pass work's coming through this year.
Yeah, so far it's looking good for RB30.
Yeah, for sure.
You're sure good. Right. Last thing I want to do before we get this outro music going is run through your waiver wire guys. Just kind of list them off.
So yeah, Jeff Wilson. I mean, he kind of is probably going to be the top running back guy if you need a running back. You know, obviously Mitchell going down. He saw 100% of the snaps or touches. I can't remember which one. After Mitchell went down, so he's there. You got Jahan Dotson and Curtis Samuel for the receivers for the Commanders. Both of them. I mean, that offense played very condensed. Like those three, all of the top three guys had like 80 plus route percentage. They all had good target share. I mean, McLaurin was a little disappointing, but like they all had pretty good target shares. Dotson got into the end zone twice. Samuel, I think he had like 4 carries on top of it too, and 83% route participation. So those are kind of like my top guys. Don't go for OJ Howard. He's fluky to me. So yeah, you could always if you're in a deeper league, I like the TDP and Mason thing. I bet
Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that, and I've been seeing it out there with a lot of people where like maybe the reason, I mean, because TDP was
hard to pick,
scratch, right?
TDP was, but a lot of people have been saying because Jordan Mason was the special teams guy,
right?
Although he did do better in preseason than TDP.
And that's the thing, though. And that's the thing is, I expect both of them to be active this weekend. So like,
we'll know more after this weekend,
right? With a full week of prep, maybe that split kind of gets a little bit different than it was, and maybe the whole thing was Wilson was kind of the one more prepared, the veteran. They just leaned on him after Mitchell goes down, and maybe with a week of prep, they get these guys more involved and more comfortable.
Yeah, so. I put some deep because I saw you had the like. I always have this issue when I'm reading waiver wire articles. I'm always like my 12 team. It was 14 for about 3 or 4 years. We went back down to 12 this year. Still very active group of dudes where like these guys don't fall. Decent bench. These guys don't fall on to waivers. Like none of the guys that you listed are on waivers. DeAndre Carter is, Duvernay I think is, and OJ Howard is. So it's always like I always want to give a little bit deeper and like a little bit like what my head is going through. Benjamin.
I like the stash. Yeah,
stash that dude. Like he's a huge stash for me. TDP and Mason is kind of one of those like lottery ticket stashes. If you got the room, you got the room. I'm not bidding on them at all. I'm actually that's one of my 5 a.m. pickups. Kenneth Gainwell, I think, is a great stash if he's available. Kyle freaking Phillips could be a PPR machine this year. We saw it in week 1. Don't know if that continues. If Treylon Burks gets more involved, then it's a different story. But he sure looks like a freaking PPR machine.
Phillips. Yep.
I refuse to put Tyler Higbee on this list. I don't care how many targets he has. He's the worst tight end in the league. Worst starting tight end in the league. I actually believe that. And famous Jameis.
Dude, it's so funny the reaction Higbee gets from people. Like
I hate him.
It's people have very strong feelings.
I
used to love him. I'll tell you that. So he's burned me. He's burned me.
Yeah.
And like, so it's hard for me to, but like, I was talking to Coop and we were talking about tight ends, and I was looking at, and his route rate and snap rate was insane too on top of it. And so like, I don't expect Allen Robinson to be what he was in week 1. I mean, he was open. If you watch the film too, like there was so many clips out there of him being open. It was kind of like Amari Cooper. He was open. So Higbee, I expect to go down some, but like just from a route participation, target share, snap percentage standpoint, like Higbee does stand out. But like, I mean, I can understand why you wouldn't want to go there.
It was just like he finished the day with 5 for 42 or 47. He had a huge drop in the game. This isn't the only reason, right? Like we've seen him dominate targets for the whole season. Like not 11. I don't expect that number to even stay that high, but we've seen him dominate targets and he just falls short every time. I could go on a huge rant about Higbee. He also was in the news, I think 5 or 6 years ago. It just got buried under for something really shitty. So I felt okay saying I hate him because I don't think I typically say that about people.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm going to play some outro music and we're going to roll out, boys.
Jeez Louise.
Big episode, Rob, huh?
What a way to end it.
If you're not, tell me if I'm cutting out, you boys. If you're not already following us on Twitter at DadBodFS, on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, I'm cutting out.
Good.
I'm good. You can also download that recording on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. There's one Cascade.
All the major platforms.
Catch every Tuesday. Rob Norton will be here with us all season. Catch us live for Rob, for Norton. Peace. Can't find the end broadcast button. Ah!